Welcome back to the show. We are Green Room Radio. My name is True. I am here. Oh, yeah. By the way, we're the dopest radio show in Las Vegas.
Yes, sir.
I'm here with Mr. Full-Time CEO, Will Roundtree.
You finally got it right today.
That's right.
It's only been 8 months, right?
Just only.
It's hard. We got little Rach.
What's up?
in the
What's
house.
up?
And we have a very special guest,
The legend.
the legend, Mr.
Yes.
I'm just going to call him Mr. Damizza.
In my own mind, maybe.
Big fan of
one and only.
of your show. Or
Thank you.
you're basically a big fan of your Instagram, and you kind of jump around a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because the Instagram thing it was really just kind of set up to be like just my day. You know what I mean? Just kind of like what
you feel.
Just what I've come in contact with in the day. And then I started doing like minute and 30 radio breaks instead of like, doing them on the radio, just doing them on Instagram.
Right.
And I just started, being an old radio guy, anytime you're under attack or anytime you need to restart, you do what made you famous. And that's kind of been the theme throughout my career, whether it's Dre and Snoop, whether it's Mariah, whether it's any of these things, is always getting artists or getting people to remember what made them famous. Then getting back to that and repackaging it. Because any brand or anything can be relaunched if it has continuity with what it started.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
makes sense.
sometimes revision to square one and starting at square one will revitalize your brand.
So with that being said, do you think that people overcomplicate their journey because they get too far out the box instead of going back
Yes.
to what got them there?
Yes. The biggest problem with a lot of people is when money comes into it.
Right.
And like, for instance, let's take Power 106, for instance,
Mhm.
and hip hop in general. Okay. When it was a garage thing and it wasn't making any money, we had the freedom to do whatever the fuck we want. And then when Wall Street got a hold of it and it became commercialized and dollars were at stake and then billions of dollars were at stake, then you have people that aren't from the culture and that aren't dedicated to those roots, that don't understand where it
Mhm.
came from, so they don't know how to steer it.
Mhm.
And that's what happens with a lot of people is a lot of artists, they get money really fast, their lifestyles change, and then their audience can't relate to them.
Mm.
So they get outside of their own brand.
I feel like that's happening a lot right now on social media where a lot of people are growing to fame, kind of rather quickly and stuff. And so at one moment in time, they were all relatable, was like, oh, they were just staying in their apartment, just driving their Toyota. And then like 8 months later, a year and a half later, now here they are driving their Rolls Royce and like living in this mansion. And it's like, it is just hard to relate to that. So I totally understand where
What do
you're
you
coming
think
from.
the biggest? First of all, are you from LA?
No, I'm from Santa Barbara,
Santa Barbara.
but it was 100
Okay.
miles from LA. So
Okay.
I would always
And
go
then-
back and forth.
And then you just came together with Power 106. Like, how did that all start?
Well, I started in radio when I was 12 years old. I got a boombox for Christmas. I flipped the switch, and they gave out the phone number. And it just so happened that the godfather of radio programming, Michael Newman, was the night jock at my local radio station. Steve Smith, who's the godfather of hip hop radio. So those were my first two mentors in radio.
Mm.
So I started doing internship at 7 to midnight with Michael Newman. And one night the overnight jock didn't show up. So I was on the air. That moved into doing 7 to midnight while I was going to high school. So if you can
Oh, wow.
That's
imagine,
crazy.
you can imagine your local radio
On a
station,
school night.
Yeah.
doing 7 to midnight, then going home, figuring out what the heck, or, going out with a cheerleader or something. And then 8 o'clock in the morning, go to class,
Back
then go
out
home,
again.
take a nap, and be at the radio station by 7.
Right.
And they let me play whatever I want because I was in the demo. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it's so controlled nowadays.
yeah.
So back then, you were allowed to play what you wanted?
Yeah, play whatever I wanted because, my music testing was school the next day. You know what I mean? Like if I played something that people didn't like or I wasn't on point, then my friends let me know about it the next day.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there was no better music testing. There was no better core marketing than going to high school and being on the radio for the core demographic.
So that, I mean, so radio back then, I mean, that pretty much can make or break an artist. In
Yeah,
a
well,
sense.
it was different. It was alternative then. For instance, like the first radio station that I programmed in Santa Barbara was an alternative station. So breaking like No Doubt and Garbage and Hootie and the Blowfish and all of that kind of stuff. But my love was always hip hop. So there was a group I broke called Garbage, which was produced by Butch Vig, who did Nevermind for Nirvana and did the Smashing Pumpkins. And I kind of saw like, okay, wait, Dr. Dre, DJ Quick, Butch Vig. So if the producer does it, then that means it's going to be dope. So I didn't know anything about alternative. I'm a rap guy. So I was like, okay, that's how I kind of associated it. And then started playing this group Garbage. And then the industry, because I was like 17 years old at the time. And I was the youngest program director of a radio station at that age. So a lot of the industry was like, how the fuck did this like 18-year-old, 17-year-old get this platinum band in a 200-seat club? Like, you know.
Like, who is this guy?
Yeah,
what is
what's
he
going on
doing?
here?
Right.
So a lot of the people from Power 106 came because it was in LA. And they're like, what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to work for Power. Like, I'll wash the vans, I'll push buttons, I'll do whatever you want me to do. So they said there was one gig open on Sunday nights. And I said, I'll take it. And they're like, you're going to be a program director Monday through Friday, 2 stations in Santa Barbara, and you're going to come and push buttons for 4 hours on a Sunday night for minimum wage? I said, yes, I am. And I'll wash the vans on the way out. You know, whatever you need me to do. So I walk in the first day, and the person I'm working with is Curtis Blow.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, look, just don't mess up my show every week, and I'll teach you a story about hip hop. So learning about Sedgwick and, you know, all of the, you know, Son of Run DMC and, you know, just all of the history of hip hop from him. Well, about 6 months into it, he leaves, or a year later, he leaves. The next person to come in is Ice-T. So now I'm learning about West Coast gangster rap from Ice-T and New York from Curtis Blow.
Wow.
So Ice-T came to work for the station?
Yeah, he was doing Sunday nights.
Wow, I can hear
So
Ice-T.
from there, I started doing Saturday nights. So I do Saturday nights and Sunday nights. So I do Saturday nights, 7 to midnight, drive back to Santa Barbara, do my Saturday promotions, then go back on Sunday, you know, and do Sunday night.
So was this from the very start of Power 106, like their beginning, or?
Well,
Right.
Power 106 originally had a deal with Magic Johnson, and they were Magic 106 when Magic first came to LA, or was in LA. And it was a AC station. But when I first started, it was kind of doing this, when I was board hopping, it was kind of doing this Boys to Men, Artie the One Man Party, LA's party station.
So it was kind of all over the place.
It was just all over the map. And then after doing a bunch of weekend stuff, and then, I mean, even on the air and the Power Tools and Richard Humpty Vision and, you know, all of that kind of stuff.
Shout out to Richard.
Yeah,
Humpty
Richard and
Vision.
Bad Boy Bill. Shout out to them.
Good
But
friends.
after doing all of that, the music director position opened. So February 3rd, 1997, I started as the music director. And what I wanted to do was just pull all of this crazy shit. Like, I want to go West Coast gangster rap. I want to get Dre and Snoop back together. I want to do all this other stuff. And they're like, you know.
So at the time, where was Death Row at the time? Was that during, after?
Pocket just died. And Death Row had just disbanded. Shug was just going to jail. And Dre had left. So Dre had done the Aftermath album and had done the Firm album. But everybody had written him off. Everybody
I
said,
remember that.
you know,
Yeah.
Dre's done, Snoop is done, West Coast rap, West Coast and just rap in general is done. We had the Vanilla Ice run, we had the MC Hammer run.
Was it because they were only playing commercial? Because it was still like you had the Razzcast, you had the West Coast artists. They
It was
just weren't
underground though.
It was all underground, right?
Yeah, so you still had the backpack movement.
Okay.
You had Far Side, you have 93 to Infinity,
Right.
you had, you know, Drew Down, Mac of the Year, you had MC Breed, you had all of those kind of things.
Shout out to Breed.
Yeah, that were bubbling under, but they weren't getting the mass appeal. And then when Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer came, then there was the backlash. Because anytime something crashes commercial, a lot like what happened in this last election, you had a black president, and then the other side swung so hard
Right.
that there's this course correction that happens where you have the fighting and then you find the happy medium. And that's what hip hop was doing, is when hip hop came out, everybody gravitated to it and then said, this is too far. and then tried to cut all ties to rap. But I wanted to go West Coast gangster rap. And the way that I looked at it was, look, we don't have to play the radio station singles or the record company singles. Records like Ain't No Fun and All About You and all of these records were so big in the street with our core demographic in Los Angeles because we're 52% Hispanic, you know, and if we're going to 12 to 24 Hispanic males, you play some West Coast rap shit.
Definitely.
And they just couldn't process that. They were saying stuff like, you can't sell it, you know, this, that, and the other.
So do you think this the Wall Street guys?
No, this was
in?
before it blew up. This is like, you know, yeah, we had a couple of springs, you know what I mean? But it wasn't like a full on, you know, the Eminem era.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? This is previous that. So the very first show that I did was a show at the Palace, and I ran into Snoop Dogg. And I had just met Biggie and Puffy at the time. I invited them to the show. And I wasn't thinking, because here in the middle of the Death Row era, I'm inviting Biggie to a show with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they knew each other. So, you know, in the middle of the East-West beef, you have Biggie on stage rapping and you have Snoop Dogg on stage dancing. So it never
crossed your mind.
Really crossed my mind like that. So Biggie comes to the office. You know, this is March 9th. I started on February 3rd.
Wow.
So March 9th, he's sitting in my office and we go in, record his drop for the Baker Boys. I think I was the last person to record him. And that night he was dead.
Yeah, March 9th. Wow.
So he sat in my office for like
Yeah,
half
it's crazy.
an hour.
Out of everybody, I only seen Tupac one time. And so the whole Tupac Biggie thing, it was always mysterious to me about Biggie because I never seen him.
Pac
So
was
I'm like,
great.
yeah, I was like, what happened? Like, did anybody ever see Biggie?
Yeah.
You said you had one of the last.
I spent a half an hour. You know, he had
What
he
was
had been in a
like?
car crash like
Oh.
a couple of weeks before, so
Yeah,
he was on
a cane.
crutches.
Yeah,
And
cane on crutches.
So what happened was he was on my competition on the beat, and they played Notorious Thugs, and I called Diddy and I was like, look, no, we broke Can't Nobody Hold Me Down, we broke Juicy, we broke all of these records. It's not going to happen like this. And so he said, look, we'll come by the morning show and we'll play, you know, Hypnotized and Kick in the Door and all of these records. And I was like, great. So they came in and he was walking down the hallway to do the drops. And he just stopped in my office and said, yo, my legs are really tired. Can I just sit in here for a little while and talk to you? And because he had done the show for us, you know, a couple nights before with the Snoop Dogg thing and everything, he was like, you know, we knew each other or had met each other. So we just sat down and it was the craziest conversation because here he is talking about how much he loved California, the women, the weed. I just got back with Faith. He's going back to New York to see his kid, you know, the Source thing. He didn't understand. He thought they were cheering, you know, I mean, like he couldn't really hear it like that, you know, so he didn't understand it till he got off, but he has so much love for the West Coast and this and that. And then that night, Outkast was having a platinum party for AT Aliens.
Right.
And it was at the Roxbury. And I was so new, you know, I had tennis shoes on. I went to the Roxbury and they wouldn't let me in. So I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get into the Peterson
Was that
audio.
when the Tia Carrera owned it?
I don't know.
Yeah, there was.
But
I was
I was like, there's no way I'm going to get into the Peterson Auto Museum if I can't get into the Roxbury. So I just went home. And I had just gotten in bed, and then I got a call from E1 from the Arista Street team saying they got big. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And he's like, they got big. And I'm like, got? And he's like, they shot big. I'm on my way to Cedar Sinai. I'll call you from there. So when they got to Cedar Sinai, he called me from a payphone, and all I heard was this yelping in the background. And I said, well, who is that? And he goes, that's Puffy. He's talking to Biggie's mom right now. Biggie's dead. And that's when it hit me.
That's crazy. You said payphone.
Yeah.
Can you imagine putting the change in and making a call like that?
Yeah, it was crazy. So right after that, and how I kind of understood all of that is at the time, Johnny J, rest in peace, who produced all of All Eyes on Me, well, he was friends with Afeni Shakur, which was Tupac's mom. And I said I'd like to have Afeni to come on Power to talk about both of their deaths and how senseless it was and so on and so forth. And kind of get a mother's perspective on it. And he said, well, I'll have her call you. I was sitting in my office that evening. It was like 7:00 at night. The phone rings and it's Afeni Shakur. And she's like, look, I don't want to go on the radio, but I will tell you the story of my son. And after, if you could get my number to Valletta Wallace, I'd like to talk to Biggie's mother. And I was like, look, I mean, I can give the number to Puff and, you know, whatever. But she sat there and told me like everything about Baltimore and, you know, the Panthers and crack and, you know, the epidemic and, you know, just everything that kind of went along with it. At the end of it, I was like, you know what? I don't even feel comfortable having this conversation on the radio.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the story of a mother and her son, I appreciate you telling me, but I thank you. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Wow.
So that's how I kind of understood that perspective.
What was the temperature like? So you being on LA radio, you know,
Sure.
obviously I'm from the East Coast in Detroit, but I mean, could you feel that tension between East Coast, West
You
Coast?
did then.
You did then?
You know, but the thing was with me is being a white boy from Santa Barbara, you know, Turkish white boy, whatever. I didn't understand it. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't come from that. So I was always on the side of just bring everybody together. You know what I mean?
Be like the middleman.
Yeah, you know, I'd mix up your colors.
Was it hard to get East Coast people out there?
No, and that was the thing, and
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of what I got known for. Is we never had a fight, we never had a issue, we never had an incident at any Power 106 event, because it kind of got to the point where that crazy little white boy over there, that's neutral ground. You know what I mean? So anytime we had an event, like, you know, it was funny when Shug got out of jail. The Anaheim Police Department, we had a powerhouse that weekend, and the Anaheim Police Department came in and said, we're going to shut down your show. I said, why? And he goes, because Shug just got out of jail and you have everybody that used to be on his label on your show tomorrow night. And I was like, well, why doesn't somebody just call him and invite him? At least we'll know where he's at. And they're like, good, you do that.
Right.
And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, call him and we won't shut down your show. So I called Shug, and after, you know, joking around with him or whatever, he's like, oh, I heard you were a crazy white boy. Like, no one's ever invited me to something.
Right.
You will not have a problem with me. And he came to the show, watched the whole show, and left.
You ever
without
get
a
an interview
problem.
with him or anything? What was your
No,
vibe
I mean,
on?
you know, Shug and I always got along. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I would take him to mixer meetings and stuff, you know, and we'd joke. You
I
know?
tell people there was a very famous night with him and Proof, but I was right next to Proof. But I tell people I met the scary Shug night,
Yeah.
and then I met the non-scary Shug
Oh, I
night.
saw the scary Shug night.
Yeah,
I mean, there was a
scary.
moment where
True.
C Murder came to the show,
Yeah.
right? And he said, I want to meet Shug. Well, I took him up to meet Shug. He was with Monica. It was crazy. And I walked him up there, and Shug sees C Murder, and he goes, excuse me, Damion. He walks up and he grabs C Murder by the shoulder and pulls him forward. And I saw his eyes roll back in his head like a shark. And he's just like, you know, like it looked like it was going to happen. And then he just looked over at me and he stopped and he just went like that, you know, whatever. And then C Murder left. I said, Shug, come on, man. And he's like, I told you will not have a problem with me. This is your house. But he sampled Tupac and he didn't clear it. So I had to talk to him.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay. And he goes, all right, take care. Now, I will tell you a funny thing that happened after. So that was Saturday night.
Right.
Sunday morning, I'm in my condo sleeping. Like, forget this. And there's a knock at the door. And I'm like, Sunday morning, I'm not answering that. There's no way. So knocking more. Doorbell. I'm like, dude. I go downstairs and there's no one there. And I look down, there's a basket. And I'm like, holy crap. I open up the basket, there's cigars and a bottle of Cristal and all this. And it said, with my compliment, Shug Knight. I didn't give this motherfucker my address.
Oh, wow.
Do you know what I mean?
That was
Right.
back when gift baskets were popping still.
No, but that was,
How the fuck you get my address?
you know,
Yeah.
but then as time went on, you realized that the security was the Rampart division, was Compton Police.
Yep.
So it's like all they had to do
Yeah, access
was
to everything.
they had access to everything. But I mean, I always got along with everybody. So I didn't understand the impact of it at the time, nor did I understand what we were doing at the time. You know, because of hip hop being what it wasn't on that level yet. Then when I'll Be Missing You dropped, that's when everything changed. You know what I mean? It became more pop, more accessible. Then my first promotion was with Diddy in Hawaii. We did the Puffy in Paradise. We sold more records in LA than we did New York. And then I had hired Snoop that weekend at that first show to do weekends. Now imagine in the middle of the Death Row era, walking up to your boss Monday morning and saying, I hired Snoop Dogg to do weekends.
Right.
That's another one. You know what I mean?
You hired him to the radio?
Yeah, he was an employee of the radio station.
Wow.
And what that came from was he said, I'm off of Death Row. I'm not doing too good. You know, he was in a dirty Georgetown.
Yeah, I heard they all left
thing.
with nothing pretty much.
Yeah, and he said,
Yeah.
I don't have a stipend anymore, so we'll come work at Power. At least it's $50 an hour, $100 an hour. You know, at least feed your family, you know, whatever, you know, 4 times a month. You know what I mean?
So at this time, were you the PD up there?
I was a music director.
So you were still just so after going through and seeing the East Coast, West Coast, did it jade you? And then is that kind
I
of...
didn't pay attention to it.
You didn't pay attention?
Because
okay.
what I kept, maybe it was denial.
Okay.
But when I saw Biggie and Snoop on stage together, that was just senseless gangbanging to me. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't between these two, so it wasn't a music industry thing.
Right.
To me, I equated it as some street shit. You know, and I didn't understand that.
You think the crews played more of a role than the two main characters?
Definitely. I mean, look at the
Like the
Tupac
backup.
stuff.
100%.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So to me, it didn't have anything to do with music, and you know, that was that. So from there, I met Dre, and then I tricked both of them to get in the room together. You know, I had a concert. I invited Snoop to the concert to headline because he worked with us. I invited Dre to come see the show, and then I put a dressing
So they were
room.
kind of not cool with each other? at
Well,
the moment?
I kind of tested the waters. I went to Dre first and said, hey, you know, I hired Snoop Dogg to do weekends. You know, what's up with you two? I haven't seen him in a while. I'll go in and talk to Snoop. Snoop said, I haven't seen him in a while. Then I said, oh, I heard he wants to work with you again. Just made it up. Then I went to Dre and said the same thing.
Right.
I heard he wanted to work with you again. Well, you know, hey, and they both said the exact same thing. They said, yeah, I'll put that motherfucker back on. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and so it hadn't clicked yet. So I was like, okay, well, let's do this show. You know, I'll invite Dre and I'll invite Snoop. I put Snoop's dressing room in one place and put Dre's dressing room right next to Snoop Dogg's dressing room. Snoop came in for the sound check, goes in his dressing room, and I switched the names on the doors. So that when Dre walked in, he walked into Snoop's dressing room.
Wow.
Oh, man.
How was that?
It was great. They
Okay.
oh, shit. You know, I haven't seen him in a while.
Right.
So then while Snoop was on stage, I looked over at DJ Jam. I'm like, play deep cover. And they were like, you know, we're not there yet. And Dre's looking at me like, nah, bro. And I grabbed 2 mics. I said, look, Dre, this whole crowd, you do go out there and do deep cover, it's over. And he's like, fuck it. And just walked out there, did deep cover, nothing but a G thing. And then from there, they both were so excited. They're like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And I said, let's do a reunion concert. We just did this Hawaii thing with Diddy, da-da-da-da-da. Why don't we do the same thing, but do it in Hawaii with you guys? Because no venue will insure a West Coast rap show. That's why we had to do the Diddy thing in Hawaii, was because we could not get rap into any venue in Los Angeles after Tupac and Biggie.
Wow.
So anyways,
Makes
we did
sense.
the Hawaii show, or we announced the Hawaii show, and then I get a call from Jimmy Iovine, who's like, bro, he goes, a producer who doesn't produce, that just had the Firm and the Aftermath album, and an artist I haven't heard from Death Row, like, what are you doing? And I said, dude, you're going to get an album. And he's like, yeah, right. Like, you know, you want me to pay for this promotion? And I was like, yeah, it's going to cost like $250,000. He goes, look, if it does not work, then I'm going to sue you for the $250,000 because I'm trying to sell this contract. I want my $30 million back that I gave Dre for these albums. And I was like, all right, fuck it. I'll take it. Whatever. You know, like, what are you going to sue me for? Nothing? I'm like 21 years old, 20 years old. So I was like, you know, I knew it was coming together. You know what I mean? And I knew if I got them in the room, then they'll start recording. And then I started hearing rumors that they were going into the studio. And then I get a call from Jimmy's office to come in, and they were in there trying to figure out how a deal would work. And when we announced the Hawaii show, then I get a call from Dre, says, come to the house. I walk in, and there's this kid in the vocal booth going, Slim Shady, you a bass head. And I'm like, wait a minute, he's writing for you? And he goes, nah, let me talk to you for a minute. We walk out, and I'm like, wait a minute, you signed the white boy? He goes, yeah, how do I break the white boy? And I go, oh, dude, you tell me the story of NWA from beginning to end, and I'll break the white boy for you. And so I sat on his washer and dryer. He sat on his stairs, and we sat there from like midnight till 6 o'clock in the morning. He told me the whole story of NWA, from World Class Wrecking Crew and K-Day and the Mixed Masters and Lonzo and the Ice Cube and writing for Boys in the Hood and what the room was like, all of that. M comes out about 6 o'clock in the morning and says, dude, I'm going back to the hotel. I said, no, you're going to Power 106. Give me that record. And then, and you're doing Friday Night Flavors 10-year anniversary tonight. So once again, I go to my boss and I'm like, look, the white boy, signed by Dr. Dre, stop, Dr. Dre's over. And a white boy, haven't you ever heard of Vanilla Ice? And if you put that white boy on stage, you're going to be fired. And I'm like, well, shit, at least I'm going to go down with a freaking bang. So that night she left. M goes out there and the first song he does is Just Don't Give a Fuck.
Wow.
So just fucking obliterates the Florentine Gardens in Hollywood. So the next morning I go into work. I've got my box on my desk. And I'm putting my shit in my box thinking I'm getting fired. And she comes in and says, you're lucky that white boy killed it. Give me the record.
Wow.
So, and then we started playing Eminem. So then we added him to the Hawaii show. And that was right at the peak of Hi, My Name Is, which started that whole buzz of garbage again. You know, of what the fuck is this guy doing? He's got Dre and Snoop back together, and who's this white boy? Like,
And you're like doing all this by the age of 21.
Basically.
Insane.
Wow. So as I was going down my rabbit hole of your very impressive resume,
Seriously.
one of the things that I noticed, that was one of your superpowers. You know how to tell the story
like
of an
a bullshit.
artist. Well, however you want to frame it, but you are good at telling the story for the artist. Do you think that's a lost art because there's no more A&Rs?
You know, it's funny we were talking about that today. I think that is the lost art. You know, the reason why we have the problems that we have with streaming and all of this is the story's missing.
I agree.
You know, like you go back to NWA, you go back to Biggie, you go back to all of these things, even Jay-Z and the crack game and the jazz and, you know, all of these things there was a story. You know, publicists, you had a storyline to follow. Was Cube mad at Easy for this or was it that? And then you had opinions and then you had anticipation waiting for the record. And you know what I mean? Like, and then when you got the record, well, oh, you know, no Vaseline, what are they going to come back with? And, you know, all of this kind of stuff. Music had a storyline.
Definitely.
You know, and that's just one part of it. So, you know, I always put the analogy like this. Did you guys see the movie Weird Science by chance?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember the line in your race for power and glory, you forgot to hook up the doll? Where
I don't remember that, but I remember Lisa.
These guys were going to create this girl.
Perfect.
But there was a process to creating the girl. And they did it because they wanted to do something great. They wanted to become something and create something. Now they went by those steps and did something. Now the other two guys that come into it want to do it just to be cool, you know, just to take advantage of people, the industry.
Right.
So along that way, they forgot one crucial step. Do you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So then everything imploded. Well, you're seeing that now. You know, radio's missing. The storyline's missing. Publicists are missing. Artist development is missing. Good songs are missing. So everything is staying the same. You know, they listen to Spotify, artists listen to Spotify and go, I have to make that to get on that.
Yeah.
And so by the time they make something like that, they're already late.
Well, there's no more The Box. There's no more MTV. There's no more BET, 10. So that was part of the storytelling. That's how we got the. I remember watching MTV Raps and seeing NWA on the back of the trailer. I think it was with Fab Five Freddy in there. They got the machine, like the anticipation of like, man, what's going to happen? Is DJ Quick going to ride on MC8?
Yeah.
Like you're looking at it, but it's nothing now.
And that's the problem.
Wow.
You know, and I think that was also kind of my place in the mix.
Right.
Was crossing it to the pop art audience. You know, packaging Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and DJ Quick and all of these artists in a palatable way on pop radio to execute. You know, a perfect example was Jay-Z. Jay-Z, when he released Ain't No, then he had 4 Stiffs who signed to Def Jam, but they couldn't get a single on him.
Right.
You know, I mean, then Hard Knock Life and Can I Get A? Yeah, they did good, but they weren't those huge #1 pop records. So I introduced him to Mariah, which opened the door to every other country in the world and exposed him to a pop audience. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was his first #1 record. But it also got her in the Marcy Projects.
I remember that.
Do you see what I'm saying? So it worked. That's where I learned synergy, where I say, okay, consistency and repetition breeds familiarity. Familiarity breeds a relationship. Relationship breeds teamwork, which is synergy, and synergy wins games. So if you have a huge pop audience and you have a huge street audience, it's like it's like Michael Jordan and Nike. It's the same thing.
Right. So
it's like Michael Jackson and Pepsi.
I want to bring something back that you said about how the further a person goes out, success-wise, they lose their core demographics because they're non-relatable.
They lose touch with reality.
How is Jay-Z able to continue to do that? Because I think he's done a wonderful, masterful job at still retaining his core audience.
Because he keeps doing the same thing. But notice Jay-Z has never had a #1 hit on his own.
That's very true.
Right.
Whoever the relevant artist is, he doesn't have. Like, for instance, when he was doing Hard Knock Life and right after the Mariah thing, he asked me to introduce him to Eminem. So backstage at Powerhouse, I introduced him to Eminem. Then I'm with him when he was doing the Kanye West thing, and I said, hey, you want to hear what Rakim is doing with Dr. Dre? It was the Watcher Part 2. Get me in touch with Dre. Let's do that. But at the same time, for instance, when we got back from Hawaii, we still couldn't get any venues. So Dre said, I want to take this on the road. I want to do the Up in Smoke tour, but no venue will take us. So I said, well, look, Jay-Z's manager, Jay Brown, his wife works for Magic Johnson. Why don't we get Magic Johnson to be the promoter? That'll open the doors to all of the things.
Nice.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Relationships, boy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
So I just
Bring in
always
people.
had, anytime there would be a problem, I'd already be onto the solution. You know what I mean? And that's just, but that's part of the story too, because then Jay-Z's writing still DRE. Do you know what I mean? And,
right.
And everything works together like that. You know, you could just, it more became air traffic controlling at that point.
So what do you think between back then and now, with all this social media? Back then, breaking a record was tough without having all I feel like it's easier for people.
Not for me.
Not for you.
I mean, I had Power 106, I had Hot 97 and 32 stations in the middle. If I wanted to play a record, 3,000 spins in a week. You know what I mean? So it wasn't hard for me to break a record. But it also wouldn't be hard for the executive at MTV or the box.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you threw it in the right rotation, then people would see it and they'd either gravitate to it.
It's like an algorithm in a way.
But it would have to, yeah, it really was. But it had to have a storyline to be able to catch. Like, there's so many times where someone would come to me and say, if you just put me on the radio, I'll be famous. No, it doesn't work like that. Because, and that's why we're having the problems that we are with streaming today. If you look at it like this, UN numbers, okay, half the world doesn't have internet. So that's half of the market that isn't even hearing your shit.
Yeah.
That's half the money that's still being left on the table.
So they're missing radio.
26% of Americans have data plans on their cell phones.
Only 26.
Okay,
wow.
so if a lot of those people in inner cities and rural areas, if you do one playlist, you ate up your data plan. So they're not sitting on TikTok all day. But because the record industry makes all of their money off of the data now, not the records, they become data collection companies and sales companies. So what they're doing is they're getting out of touch now.
So do you think that's where some of the corruption's coming at, where the labels are taking advantage of the artists?
No, the reason why, look, the corruption started in the music business and prohibition and the speakeasies. Because and in the Great Depression, see how the music industry was born is during Prohibition. They had these clubs, these speakeasies, the Chitlin Circuit, where they would traffic the alcohol in trucks through a line, interstate lines, to each different one, and they deliver the alcohol. Well, the artist would ride in the car right behind the alcohol because the entertainment would accompany the alcohol to each one on tour. Do you see what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
So when the liquor became legal, they needed something to run through that distribution system. That's the music business.
Wow.
Turned into the concert business, and then records, CDs, and tapes.
Wow.
It's all
so
political.
It was always based in corruption. That's why when it gets to this point, pop eats itself. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Look, we dumped $7 trillion during COVID into the marketplace. We didn't have a crash right after. The quarters continued to go up.
Right, true.
It's absolutely impossible. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
So now you're dealing with all of this consolidation, and all of these record companies can't find a way to make the quarter go up again unless they get their money from somewhere else.
So that's where they're getting it from the data.
Right. So the entertainment business has moved on.
So do you think that's
streaming and data companies?
So why are a lot of these private equity firms buying everybody's pub masters now?
Because that's the only thing that's valuable. See, it's done by market share. It's done by pro rata streaming. So if Drake gets 23% of the spends on Spotify, he gets 23% of the money. So that's where the catalogs have the value. Do you see what I'm saying?
So they're trying to take ownership back from...
The value is not in the new music. You can have one record that sells 1 million copies. You can have 1 million records that sell one. It's all the same thing.
Right.
So now they've just switched from the million, selling the million out of the gate, to the millions. Do you see what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So if you have 300 artists that go viral, right? And they get X amount of spins, but together combined, they control 10% of the market share. Well, that's why the record company has bought up the distro kids, the Spotify.
So it's a numbers game for them. That's
all
it.
Numbers.
Wow.
And that's why they also don't pay any independent for less than 1,000 streams, because that money gets thrown into the pool and paid to the majors.
What's like the biggest record label right now? Oh,
Probably Universal.
Universal got everyone.
I mean, they have the most market share.
Wow.
But what has happened is now with AI and stuff, because the record company's making those quarters, now they want the mechanicals. Now they want the publishing. Now they want all of the stuff that comes with it. So if they create the AI material, because they don't really want songs, okay? They only want content long enough to get you to the next commercial. So if they can keep you 30 seconds entertained on Instagram or any of those long enough to get you to the next ad, and then you buy the ad and they keep you on your handheld.
So
they mine the data.
Got you.
So the industry is doomed.
The industry's done. That's what people don't realize. These are not record companies anymore. There's no A&R. There's no distribution. There's no anything. They just send it to Spotify, and it's streaming. It's subscription models.
So I heard someone say this online recently. You're seeing all of these artists starting podcasts. They're selling items on TikTok Shop. Like they're doing everything but making music.
Right.
Is that a telltale sign that the money is also drying up for a lot of artists?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, and the thing is what artists haven't realized yet is, look, the new business is intellectual property.
IP all day.
So you are your IP, you are your product, and you can either license that out and sell it early, much like publishing back in the day, where like an artist would take $5,000 in cash, sign off their publishing, someone else would make the money till the end of their career.
And now they're a slave.
So
why aren't more people following the Tech Nines and the Russes, and like they're taking, like I saw an interview with Russ.
It's not the easy route.
I get it, but it's like...
And sorry to interrupt, but record companies have spent billions of dollars in convincing artists that the only way to get famous is through them.
Because they have access to all the platforms,
the big
and the numbers, and
look,
they could put you in front of the right people.
But I'm looking at it even from a mathematical standpoint. So if I'm an artist and I know that I have a buzz and I can sell some tickets, I can put a couple butts in some seats. I can get a line of credit for $50,000. It's going to cost me $750 a month. Okay. All I have to do is make sure that I can service that debt on that $750. I'll just keep flipping that, no different than if I'm, in the streets. How come they don't see it from that?
Don't you want that new Bentley? But don't you want this?
Gotta sell the sizzle.
Don't you want to be as big as Jay-Z?
That's
hey,
the
Jay,
scariest
come here for
part.
a second.
And that's the scariest part.
Yeah, you should sign. Matter of fact, let's do the deal together.
Wow.
I'll give you $10,000 in cash right now. Do the deal with me. I'll make you famous.
At 79% interest.
Right.
At 79% interest.
Is it selling your soul?
90.
Is that actually real?
90%.
No, I mean, because you got to stop and think about the paperwork.
Sheesh.
The paperwork, and the very first line of most contracts from back in the day, they said, we engage into this agreement to exploit said artist's work. Now it
Nobody
says,
ever
I'm going
read
to
it.
fuck you right in the first line of the contract. And these guys are like, hell yeah, I'm going to sign this motherfucker. Now, the reason why the record company doesn't want to do that anymore is why would I create a Drake if he's just going to get leverage and have negotiating power against? That's what this whole Drake case is. Is now you're trying to find out what we're making on all the other money and you want to cut of that? Like, no, stay in the record sales, little homie. You know what I mean? Like, but he was trying to figure out, you know, every artist has like what's kind of like a employee ID number, like a social security
They're basically
number.
employees.
Right. So when TikTok or any of these people run an ad right after their song, they equate that ad to Drake keeping them there. But instead of paying Drake, they pay the label. So Drake was asking, wait a minute. So every cent that came in outside of the record sales, the data, the sales, all of that.
That was all going to them.
Everything associated to that number, my employee number. I want to know what that is.
And they're like, oh, well, we'll just buy you another car.
All right, so we'll just switch to this guy, Kendrick.
And then they played them against each other.
And then they play them against each other.
They played them against each other.
So his whole case, from the way that I read it, was you turned off the bots
on me
in the middle of a contract, in the middle of a contract negotiation, and then pumped him up to be the new me.
So he lost his leverage.
So he not only lost his leverage, he lost his market share. Now you want to talk about debt and servicing loans.
And he hasn't been the same.
He's got
since.
a brand new Boeing. He's got a brand new jet. He's got a brand new house. He's got all these baby mamas or whatever the fuck he's doing. He's got houses. He's got cars. He's got all of this stuff. And he has to make
X amount of dollars.
$500 million to service all of the debt that he's got and all of the overhead that he's got.
Right.
So when you turn off the bots and you turn off the market share and you slow down the money, and now you're fucking with my contract negotiation, even if I want to go to another label, I don't have the same value because I'm not taking the catalog with me.
So I could have this dialogue with you for the next 24 hours straight. So I work with a lot of people.
I may have to go to the bathroom.
You got it.
So I work with a lot of people when it comes to like teaching them how to invest in real estate. And I make it a mathematical equation, make it very simple. Nobody's teaching these artists, or there's like, it's mind blowing.
So far out of their way to make sure that nobody teaches you that. Because then they label you, they blacklist you at that point.
That is very true.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because you're too smart. Why? Go back to what I just said. Why would I want to educate you so that you will gain leverage against me in contract negotiations?
Right.
Drake got too smart.
So it's the modern day slavery. I said it, yeah.
Right.
I definitely could say that. That's modern day slavery.
That's crazy.
That's why they say the label is the new plantation.
Like, is there even any hope in the music industry now?
Why do you think Prince went so far to write slave on the side of his face and call Warner the plantation? Because that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And as soon as he got leverage, they tanked his career.
They tanked his career.
You know, Halsey, or what's her name? Halsey, or whatever her name is, was just on Apple Music saying, I can't make an album right now. They won't let me make an album.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, she can physically go to a studio and make a record, but because she's not playing the game right now and she's being trouble, they're like, you can sit on the shelf for the rest of your life. We'll go make a new one. Hey, Kalani, come here. You know what I mean? Like,
Jeez.
So Salt and Peppa's going through that. They're
Salt and Peppa's
fighting
going
for their
through
masters.
a whole different thing. I mean, see, they were signed to a production deal through Herbie Lovebug.
Right.
Okay, so they didn't have participation in their master.
Wow.
Do you see what I'm saying? So they're in kind of a fight with the, you know, there's a lot of that in the music industry where people sign, like for instance, there was TDE with Kendrick, there's Aftermath with Eminem, you know, at some point, usually you negotiate yourself out of the imprint and go direct to the label so that more of the money trickles to you. And then you change your business relationship accordingly. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
How long are these people on contracts for usually?
Oh, God.
It's forever.
I mean, well, it depends. You know, for
Obviously,
instance,
they're all different.
well, it depends also how prolific the artist is and how many times, you know, you go to the well. Like a lot of artists, they get 1-2 albums out of them. They're signed usually for 7 deals or, you know, it's a per album thing. So you sign them to 7 albums basically, you know, and with each new album, you get a higher deal or you renegotiate and you have leverage and all this kind of stuff. But a lot of times you don't get to the 7th album.
Very rare.
Very few artists get to 7 albums. You usually do 1, maybe 2. And then that's the career span. But these artists get it set in their mindset, like a Drake or any of them, where this money is going to continue to come for the rest of my life.
And it doesn't a lot of times.
And it never happens that way. But the label keeps making you think that it is, whether it is or it isn't, to keep you in debt. So the longer they keep you in debt, the more they can
have leverage over you, essentially.
Man, it's a cold game.
It is.
So what do you think about this, like AI taking over? You know, it's just
nothing's going to take over. Look, look at it like this. There was a live drummer one time. When the drum machine came out, drummers were like, "That's motherfucking take my job."
Right.
You know,
but it's not the real thing.
There was a tape machine once. Right. When Pro Tools came out, all the engineers said, "Well, what the fuck am I going to do?" You know what I mean? It doesn't look. AI can do everything for you.
Yeah.
But you still got to type the
You just got to learn how to run the AI.
Right. And not just that, but the AI is a tool. People are, oh, the sky is falling, but it's never going to have the soul of Miles Davis. You know what I mean? It's never going to be Prince. It's never going to be any of those things. So it has to have somebody that creates it. And that's like, for instance, there's this new artist, Monet or whatever it is. It was #1 on Billboard recently, an R&B record. But the artist wrote the songs or wrote the lyrics, the poems, put them into AI, then gave it the vibe and did it that way. That's one way to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's to what degree is the tool being used? Now, in a record company, the record company wants everything to be AI because then they don't have to pay anybody else.
Yeah, it's just easier.
And that's the way it's going. So right now, one of the you got to think of it like a tree splitting. Okay, you got to think of it like, think of the automotive industry about 10 years ago when they said we're going to bring in electric vehicles.
Nobody believed.
Petroleum was like no, all of these other people were no, but it became a new business. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So right now, while the record companies aren't looking, there is a whole new business for organic artists, and the independent game has branched off. Now, if people get smart and control the independent game and get smart about their IP and don't let the major labels still keep a finger in their ass over here, excuse my French, then everything will be okay. But knowing the record companies, they want to cut of that too. So they're trying to manipulate it.
So they find more shinier things to offer to the artist.
But if the artist gets smart, don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Don't think that Spotify is the only way. Go back to the organics. I mean, you look at Japan, you look at South Korea. They still sell more CDs than they do in streaming. You know what I'm saying? So
that is.
So, but Americans are dumb consumers a lot of times. You know what I mean? They prefer McDonald's than they do a gourmet meal. They'll take being poisoned if it's quicker.
Facts.
Do you know what I'm saying? So
that's life wrapped up in a nutshell.
So if Americans all of a sudden, I mean, look, you got a felon in the White House right now that's doing all this crazy shit. They'll do that because it's something that they think they can believe in when the facts are telling them something totally different.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter it doesn't matter what the actuality is on the street. It's what the narrative is. And that's what this disposable world that we're in right now, America, look at the latest thing that they were saying, that all of this MAGA stuff, all of this Trump stuff, everything is bots from China and Russia. And half the narrative is coming from all of these other places that none of it was ever true. Do you know what I'm saying?
No.
Like
that's how much
anymore.
But that's the thing that I'm trying to say is forget the red and blue, blood or crip, freaking Republican or Democrat, all of that shit.
It's all the same.
The narrative is bullshit. And it's been a CIA.
And I think people are waking up.
Well, but will they wake up fast enough before
it takes over?
It's, before we're all in freaking prison camps. Do you know what I mean? And not just America. I'm talking about the world right now.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the way everything's going. You got China that has all of this, they were the model for the digital ID stuff. I mean, if you jaywalk more than twice, then you can't buy groceries. You can't send your kids to college.
Yeah, everything's digital
because
over
of the
there.
social credit
That's crazy.
score.
My
Oh,
friend's
yeah.
from China, and like she goes over there often. She tells me like everything you have to purchase with your phone. Like there is no cash, there is no exchange. Like, and half the time there would just be a robot there. Like you're not interacting with the actual human. So I think the things that are happening in China can definitely happen here in America. I mean, it's just
Well, they're
like
trying to roll it out. in the UK right
exactly.
now.
It's just a matter of time. Like within the next 5-10
Well-
years. I mean, like, dude, we got flying cars already.
Well,
I mean, not really, but yeah,
We do.
we
but-
do.
And we also have gravity manipulation, but it would destroy the fucking petroleum industry and electricity industry. So,
And they're the biggest lobbyists. So
well, and not just that, but I mean, if you think about it, have you ever seen a president die of cancer?
no.
But what would, if there was a cure for
Yeah.
cancer, what would that do to the pharmacy?
Yeah, it
industry?
is
Oh, for
destroyed
sure.
them.
The profit is not.
I heard they have
in
a
the
patent
cure.
on cancer.
Yeah, they have that on AIDS.
I believe it.
Yeah, there's
on
a
COVID
patent.
before it came out. I
Yeah,
mean, and
it's a
look at
patent.
COVID. What did COVID do? At the end of the day, what did COVID do? It
Mass
sent-
control.
It made everybody sit on their phones.
Yeah.
Made everybody order everything online and get used to
Mhm.
living and being
Collecting
dependent.
data. That's all they were doing.
That's all it was.
Pre-programming.
And look, you go back in time. Nobody was dying of COVID. Nobody had cancer. None of these are all man-made things.
Mm.
Like, I mean, they had the plague.
right.
That was about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't have all of these laboratory-made viruses and all of this shit that were supposedly made so that they had a vaccine in case someone made it.
Mm-hmm. Make sure you get your booster.
Which killed more people than the actual.
Right.
I know.
I'm glad I.
But anyways, how you guys been?
Right.
Let's keep
Yeah,
it
no.
positive. Yeah, right.
Did
What a
you-
great Monday.
were you vaccinated, Marissa?
Actually, yeah, and it sucked because at the time in 2005 I retired, and I was
That's
at
the
the
same year you retired, true.
I was at the peak of everything, but my grandma got sick.
Mm.
So I was taking care of a 96-year-old
Mm.
around COVID in the middle of nowhere in Louisiana.
Mm.
And they said that it would be a threat to her. If she got COVID, she would die. So that's how they got me with the jab.
Mm.
Is the doctor said, if you don't get this vaccine and you get
You put other
COVID,
people at risk.
you're going to kill your grandma.
I
Right.
know they were doing that to people and making
And
people
then
feel bad.
she got the jab and started having many strokes.
You messed her.
Aw.
Yeah.
So either way, it was partially killing her.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's-
you motherfuckers.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it. I said just it was my age, and I was like, I just didn't feel at I don't know what age I was, somewhere.
You are old as
Past-
fuck.
I am old.
I
as
just said
fuck.
I'll drink ginger ale.
But I was like, I had a baby mom who lived in
Yeah.
L.A.
Mhm.
who was anti-vax to the extreme, and then all of a sudden she pops up at my doorstep one day and she's like, "We're gonna go get vaccinated. We have a kid. This is the smart thing to do." And she actually, being in
Wow.
California, she got brainwashed. And then I was like, "Fuck, I'm gonna do it." And then literally like an hour later, she's like, "You know what? We're not gonna do it."
Yeah.
And I was so glad because
Well, you
I'm
almost
like,
got brainwashed.
Well, no, that's what I
Shit.
said. I'm like, I almost did it, and I'm like,
what we do for the women,
I
man.
know. I was like,
Was that
Jesus.
one
You
from
men.
Tinder? Was that one from
No.
Tinder?
We're easily swayable.
No, I'm-
Yes, this is true.
I'm actually going to.
We
court
appreciate you
with that
guys,
one.
okay?
Pretty
I
smile,
mean-
and we're done.
Okay,
So
that's
you
funny
didn't?
thing.
Did you just do one, or did you go through this whole?
I only got. I did it was one vaccination, but you had to do it in 2 shots.
Mm.
Oh yeah, they had that
Yeah, so I did the Walmart.
first. I don't
Special.
know.
You got some donuts?
No, they didn't give me shit.
Wow.
Dang.
And I
no
got
free
sick.
promotion.
You know, I felt like shit for 2 days,
Fuck.
Sheesh.
That's what I told everybody. The only time in my life,
and it gave me the clap. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
haven't heard that one in a minute.
The only time I've ever had the flu was getting the flu shot. Ever.
That's how they do. it.
Never
Yeah,
been
well,
sick
yeah.
before.
That's what my mom said. Never get the flu shot because you're gonna get the
That's
flu,
why
Rachel.
I laugh. Now they're giving you you get $10 off at Target if you do a flu shot. Like they're paying you to take the flu shot. Like basically.
Well, and now they're finding that a lot of the vaccines is what's causing everything from autism.
Autism.
Everything.
You know, I mean, a lot of, and cancer is more, and people that have been vaccinated, there's all this stuff. But when you stop and think about it, look, the pharmaceutical industry is the most corrupt thing on the fucking planet.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And like they've always said, the profit is not in the cure, it's in the treatment. So, I
Yeah.
mean, and that too, I mean, think about what we were talking about before about, you know, all of this money being spent. If you take one of those things out, those quarters go down. And that's the most powerful lobby there is the pharmaceutical company that's backed by Wall Street that are making the money off the pharmaceutical company.
Once again, back to the Wall Street.
Yeah.
Here we are taking over the music industry, taking over
everything.
the health.
You can go way back. I mean, look at
dude.
the biggest psyop ever in history was the schooling systems. You know, I mean,
Yeah, the
putting kids
Rockefellers put
in
that
school
together.
5 days a week
to control their
From
minds.
school
to
the
program them.
prison system.
You know what I mean? And there's a reason why the prisons look exactly like the schools.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's conditioning people, but it is what it is. I digress.
Yeah, but so let's.
All right.
I got something I want to bring up, Damizza. All right, speaking of facts, we're gonna
Tell
put
him.
some respect on his name.
Tell them.
The fourth most influential individual in the music industry, and
That's a
he
big
didn't
deal.
say that. Chris
Yeah.
Gotti said it.
That's insane.
Well, actually, Source Magazine.
Source Magazine. Okay.
Oh,
okay.
oh.
You know, it was
That's
that
some
was
power.
yeah, that was
Dude, yeah.
surprising
power.
as fuck. Actually, you know, one of my dreams was to make it into the Source Power 30. You know, when you're in hip hop,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And, you know, it was funny because they
That's
called me and
everything.
they're like, yeah, you're in the Source Power 30 this year. So I get the magazine.
Right.
I look at like 30, 29, 28. And I go, this motherfucker's lied to me.
Where am I at?
Yeah. You know, I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't make it. And I threw the magazine away. And I kept getting these calls like, congratulations. I'm like, bro, I looked. I'm not in there. And they're like, did you look at the top 5, motherfucker?
Wow.
And I was
Oh,
like,
man.
no. I mean, it was like Jimmy Iovine is
Mhm.
like,
Yeah, I
and
was gonna
no, it was
ask
Def
about the
Jam. That was
lineups.
number 1. It was Kevin
Okay.
Lyles and
Leo.
Def Jam and Leo as a whole.
Right.
Number 1. Number 2 was Jimmy and Dre. Then number 3 was like Diddy, and then number 4 was us.
Wow.
Wow.
And I'm like sitting there. Number 5 is Master P. And I'm like sitting there
Yeah.
just going like, yeah, right, you know, whatever. And I opened, I was like, what the fuck? But then when you stop and think, the 3 that are ahead of us are all records that we broke
That you
or
broke,
put
yeah.
together.
Wow.
And, you know, it is what it is.
How old were you when that happened?
20-something.
Oh.
And I had just produced Mariah. I had just done Where I Want to Be for Nate Dogg.
So sick.
We had just broke her of Gotti and Ja Rule and done the Jay-Z thing and all of that. And it was just, it was a wild time. It was just a wild time.
So as I was learning about just you breaking all those monumental records, I noticed you had a formula, and some of it was analytics. Some of it was, having a certain KPI, key performance indicator. And then you also were, kind of looking at the scope of the industry and the streets and all of this stuff. Like, at such a young age, like, where did that come from? Was it mentorship? Was it just
It's
you
a little of
starting in the
everything.
industry so young? Where did that?
It was a
where did
little of
that come from?
everything, but I credited it being in high school and having a 7 to midnight shift because I realized that whatever I learned in real time from the streets was what was reacting. And if you stayed true to that, a lot of people would say when they program radio, it's like, for instance, data, right now with data, if you're only surveying 26% of the
You
population,
can't reach.
you're not going to
Yeah.
get accurate answers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So as a radio station, if I surveyed Hollywood and not East Los, then I wouldn't get the right answers. Now, a lot of times when you do radio research, it's done by the phone. But if you don't call people, if you call people that don't have a phone, you're not calling people. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, absolutely.
It's not your core market. So I would always spend time in my zip codes where the diaries drop, the people that I was trying to become the audience.
So
And
you knew your audience.
I knew my
that
audience.
was your sauce.
Yeah. And you also have to remember all of the artists are attached to gangs, which are attached to the streets.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't hard to
maneuver that.
listen to what people were gravitating to and what was fake and what wasn't. The last thing that I would listen to was a record company telling me something's a hit. I mean, when speaking of Ja Rule and Chris Gotti, when they did Ja Rule 336, Between Me and You, Put It On Me, all of those, They took it to Def Jam, and Def Jam said, "Go make another album. This sucks."
Wow.
And I said, and so I put Irv Gotti on the road
record.
and introduced him to all the DJs and said, "Here's how you break a record. Start with the DJs, go to the clubs, do the mixtape circuits, do all of this, and then we'll develop it up organically through the streets and the zip codes." So the DJs that were the tastemakers in the hot zip codes were the DJs that I went to. As soon as they got into Hollywood, they were gone. Because they would aspire to DJ in Hollywood so that they could hang out with the celebrities and think that was making it. No, be number one in Pacoima, in East Los, and those kind of places. And then you have value to the radio station. You know what I mean? You only have valuable to yourself doing Dre's. You know what I mean? You're trying to get into Vegas. That our signal doesn't even reach into Vegas. You know what I mean? So the second that Vice got $1 million deal, it was like, sure you want to do radio anymore? Because it's not doing us any good.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's all data.
Really, everything is, but it needs to be a compass or a barometer. It can't be a roadmap.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the more that you rely on research, the more the research shrinks. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, that
like,
makes sense.
like the more you're going to end up on a pinhead, because the more that you dilute and the more that you focus in, and as you lose audience and you're not looking at the peripheral, you're only looking at the super core.
Because it's always going to be skewed some kind of way.
Exactly.
Always.
But if you only focus on, say, for instance, call out research, your research is going to start getting smaller and smaller. Your base is going to start getting smaller and smaller. And that goes back to what happens with artists, is they start paying attention to what their friends in Hollywood are saying and not what their friends in the hood are saying. So their perspective changes. And reality is based in perspective, but it's dependent. They used to say perception is reality. Perspective is reality. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if you change your perspective, then you're going to change your reality. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, it makes total sense.
From the
to me.
beginning, if you stay in the hood, stay advised by the same people, stay making the music with the same people that made you famous, then uncorrupted, you'll continue to be famous. But if it'd just be like, you have an NFL team. You're doing great. You're halfway through the season. You haven't lost a game. And you decided to change your whole front line.
You're done.
Or your quarterback.
Right.
You know, your running backs.
You're done.
Then
You just changed your flow.
you change the whole flow.
Yeah. I think that's what made Nipsey so great. Like, Nipsey, he knew his audience. Like, they say he was brilliant in regards to his business acumen.
Well, and because he was bringing the business to the hood.
Yeah.
He wasn't bringing the
Hood to the,
You know what I'm saying? And that's what kept it going so well. And that's also what scared people about him. You know, that's usually when it's done the opposite way like that, it gets scary. You know what I mean? People get nervous.
Yeah, what was his quote? I don't know if I heard it watching one of your videos, but he said, keep it dangerous?
Yeah.
Nipsey's theory was keep it dangerous versus what was the other way of saying it?
I don't know, but I know it got dangerous.
What?
Yeah. Well, they were saying that they had a new term for it, but Nipsey would always say keep it dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, as his way of saying that it's.
But look, you know, when
reminding
he
you.
did that Sebi deal,
it was really scary.
you're messing with the pharmaceutical companies, you're messing with all that.
Billions,
They took them both.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean,
Billions.
look at Chester Bennington, look at you know, Avicii, look at all those guys getting into the pedophile range.
Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, oh, we're gonna break up this. You know, what happened to them?
I even think Michael Jackson and Prince too.
They all get exposed.
I mean, look, and I'm not saying that, you know, Michael was murdered, and I'm not saying that Prince was murdered, but I'm saying that the business killed him, one way or another.
Yep.
Whether it be you got to remember what the entertainment business is. It's the center of everything: drugs, money, sex, ego, entertainment. I mean, it's all in one little hub. So when you're dealing with those kind of emotions, you know, an artist doesn't know why you like this song and why you don't like this song, because they wrote both the songs.
Right.
So why are you calling this baby ugly and not this one? You know, they go out there and have an incredible show. Wake up the next morning and the press says you sucked.
Mhm.
Or you think you sucked. You hit a bad note, it was da-da-da-da-da, but the next morning the press says you're great. You know, there's no rhyme or reason to any of this stuff, but it's a mental fuck. You know, I mean, you wonder why every single artist, every single entertainer, whether it's Dave Chappelle, whether it's Mariah Carey, whether it's Britney Spears, whether it's any of them, have had substance abuse problems or mental health issues, or Kanye West, any of this stuff. You wonder why, and then you go, oh, okay, well, this pressure cooker of the entertainment business. I mean, one second there's these extreme highs, and then these extreme lows. You're on stage in front of 17,000 people. They're all saying that they love you, but you got to run off the stage, go through a dark tunnel, hop in a car, go to a hotel, go through the kitchen, go to an elevator, go into a dark room and go to sleep now, because those 17,000 people that just saw you will kill you if they freaking come in contact with you. They'll mob you and you get torn apart.
So do you think that the industry plays a role in the perception or even the perspective that the individual has on themselves? Because they can manipulate it.
Well, I think Dave Chappelle said it best. Is there something wrong with the artist, or is there something wrong with Hollywood? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Once again, it's perception. You know what I'm saying? It's the people around you.
It's like breeding itself, you know, almost like.
Do you think right now? I mean, do you think in the music game it's fine? Like, is there a changing of the guards?
Well, there's a big changing of the guard, but the question is it for the better?
Yeah,
because the message is still the same. You know, you have to go through us to get it.
Did you?
And it's easier to get into the NFL. It's easier to get into the NBA. At least you have a draft every year and you retire people every year. But there's 10 spots on the Billboard chart, and they've been the same for a year and a half. So
why does radio right now not let the jockeys and stuff? Why can't they play what they want to play?
Well, radio is now, it's homogenized. It's McDonald's. You know what I mean? And they're beholden to the record label. So if the record label tells you, play this is the single.
That's what you're going to do.
That's what you're going to do. But they really want Spotify to win because that's...
Because they're making their money off their data.
Exactly. So they've spent millions of dollars to discredit radio to begin with and to keep people away from radio.
And so Power 106 still the biggest in LA, correct?
It is the last rated radio station in Los Angeles right now.
Wow.
It was valued at $80 million 10 years ago, and it's worth 12.5 now.
It went down.
So just somebody that you would obviously know.
You have Rio, you have K-Day, you have Power 106, you have KLLI or whatever that is. You have Latino 96.3. You have all of these radio stations going for the same demo. There's only one pop station in LA, and that's Kiss FM, and that's why it's number one.
No competition.
So you have 3 stations all playing. You have 2, to say for instance, K-Day, Rio, and Power all playing the same music. Okay? Yeah. So each of them has a 1.7 to 2 share. If only one was playing it, then it'd have a 7 share. It'd be the number 1 station in Los Angeles. But they're all fighting for the same audience. So there's crazy. No, you know, and even like, for instance, when I was doing Power, we had a competition in The Beat. You know, The Beat was the number 1 station in LA for a while.
Right.
Well, when we took it over, we just did it better. You know what I'm saying? We invested in artists early. We broke a lot of artists. We took a lot of chances, and those paid off. Jay-Z, Ja Rule, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. That when we did, like, for instance, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, that's not something The Beat could even touch because we incubated it from the relationship standpoint. So we were what put them together. So when they did the Up in Smoke tour in Los Angeles,
and you guys,
we put the tour together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was our infrastructure. It was our down to the Magic Johnson shit. So when Dre did 2 nights in LA, there were Power 106 powerhouse shows. So there wasn't, we pulled the plug on The Beat. they couldn't move in LA. And we had Hot 97, and we had Phoenix, and we had, you know what I mean? We had so many stations, and we're so influential that iHeart ain't shit compared to what we had.
Yeah. Did you work at all with Big Boy?
Big Boy is also one of my brands.
Yeah.
He was my morning show at Power. So
Okay.
Big Boy and I worked together. So like he was the voice of the radio station, and the radio station was my boombox. So I did the music, and he did the.
So when you met him, I mean, I obviously have heard Big Boy was an actual
Fucking
big
huge.
boy. So
Yeah.
when you met him, he was super
Huge.
heavy.
Yeah. But Big and I always got along great. And to this day, we get along great. And I love Big Boy. Big Boy has been one of my biggest supporters and everything. And we came up together, and his morning show was the first morning show in Los Angeles that I helped develop. You know what I mean? So, Fuzzy and, all of the guys, we all worked together with this hip hop thing when it was just in a garage. So, when Snoop Dogg came, when we hired Snoop Dogg, that came through Fuzzy.
crazy.
I mean, he did the show through Fuzzy. That's how we met, through the streets. And when he went on Power and said, the beat can eat a bowl of salty nuts on Big Boy's show, that stamped Big Boy, and it put a freaking bucket of water in our competition. So, I mean,
Wow.
it's all credibility, man.
That's all. It's credibility, relationships. It's so. This is like a master class for anybody who's paying attention, that the basics matter.
Yeah.
And that's what I think.
That's all that matters. And
Everybody is getting away
where
from that.
Your foundation.
They're enchanted by the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I'm saying is if, and like you said at the beginning of this, if you take a step back and just think common sense and not by the glitz and glam that you see on TV, you win.
Because it's fake anyway.
Right. But like what you said is, why don't you go get a loan that you can pay back at a decent interest rate, and not a record company loan, which is 12 cents on the dollar that keeps you in debt
Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they don't.
Let's
teach
set
you
up a
things like
class.
that.
Anytime
I'll
you
come
want.
teach it.
We did a synergy class in Los Angeles
All
in October. And like I said, we had Harvey Mason from the Grammys, we had Big Boy, we had Exhibit, we had all of those. And this is why I'm doing them, is to teach not only synergy marketing, but to teach the reality of where we're at. Tank was there too, talk about sync and all of that kind of stuff. And then I did 2 in London. I went to go on vacation in London, and it turned into 2 synergy classes.
Right. So to that point, I have a good friend who's a music artist. And I remember during COVID, he was thinking about taking a deal. And I said, why would you take a deal? I said, look, let me show you how to get a line of credit. I helped him get a line of credit for like $100,000. And he used that, did his own album. He owns his masters. And now he's starting to recoup. And now he's getting those $10,000, $15,000, $30,000 checks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, see, it paid off. And now you own everything. You own your merch. You own your touring. You own your, and that's what we got to start teaching more.
Teach and
than
preach,
this.
my brother. Teach
You
and
got to
preach.
tell him, Mizza, don't talk too much, Will.
Nah, I mean, but that's
Give him the
that's,
sauce.
No, but that is the sauce that has to be the new record deal.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to
No,
believe in
yeah.
yourself as the IP. You have to be willing to invest in yourself, and you cannot be enchanted by the light. And the record company is nothing more than a light.
So obviously you've done a lot of you worked with a lot of people. Have you ever been a ghost producer?
Of course,
So who?
I was a ghost, and I'll never tell.
Dang it.
No,
I
there's a
want the
lot of
secrets.
there's a lot of records that I did that, I mean, like for instance, Half the Glitter album.
Yeah, I heard, by the way, that you're the one that picked the name for that. Is that true?
No.
All right. I was just kidding with you.
No, I don't. Matter of fact, I fought that.
Glitter.
When she wanted to do Glitter, there was $100 million deal from Virgin. Virgin didn't even want the deal. I had to do acrobatics to get that deal done. But yeah, it was. But it was the same type of thing. She was coming off of a label. Ex-husband's coming after her. Someone's offering $100 million. Or you can go over here and sign with Clive Davis, and it's less money up front. But then, she didn't want somebody having creative control over her projects. She felt that was more Tommy than it was, so she wanted the $100 million.
Do you ever listen to her Christmas album?
Fuck no, I heard that's bro. We'd go on. I spend every Christmas with her, and every New Year's with her, and that's like she is a Christmas freak.
Right.
So it's like every Christmas it would be like I will gag if I hear that song again. Because that's all that would play all day long, and that's all she would sing walking around the house during Christmas.
It's time.
It was great, but I'm scarred for life. Like every time I hear that song, I think of being in Aspen, and
wow. Yeah, I got the All I Want for Christmas pop. I'm like, hopefully.
I'm done.
So I heard somewhere that after I think it was your grandmother who passed?
Yeah. 2 years, January 6th.
Okay. Condolences.
Thank you.
Crazy and Lazy were the first two people to reach out to you, and that you had a really good relationship with Bone Thugs.
Oh yeah. I've known Bone. I mean, Crazy Bone was on the first record I ever produced, which was I Still Believe with Mariah.
I'm gonna do a quick test on you. What's Lazy's real name?
Stanley House.
Nope. I don't think so. Unless he lied to me and fucked up. I was at a concert with him one day, and he asked me, he said, "What's your real name?" Because I go by True, and I said, "My real name's Steve," and he said, "Me too."
Stephen House.
Oh. What did I do?
I thought
you said Stanley.
Oh yeah, that's what I thought too.
His brother Stanley.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, yeah, and I was like,
Flesh is Stanley. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, he said to me one day, it was just so odd. He's like, "My name's Steve too," and then I was like, "Oh, okay." So
Anthony Henderson.
Yeah.
Brian McCain.
Yeah. No,
I mean, I've known him. It's crazy because Bone, I was such a huge fan of.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? I
everybody,
think we all were.
everybody.
And Crazy and I have had label deals together. I mean, we've done projects like crazy. And Bone, like, I'm like one of the only people that can get off 5 to do something at the same time.
Yeah. So.
So like
difficult.
More Than Thugs, which I produced.
Busy.
And then you've also been quoted by saying they're the greatest hip hop group of all time,
in my opinion.
Right.
Not by numbers, not by whatever, but
definitely.
to me, they are. Right. And individually, they're absolutely fucking incredible.
No, they are.
You get it, like, and as a producer, like for instance, with More Than Thugs, one of those records, I go right with Busy, then I go see Crazy, then I go see Lazy, then I go see Wish, then I go see Flesh.
What's the deal with Flesh? Like, I mean, I know he's
the one I know the least.
Well, that's what, now that he pops up, I always wonder, is that the problem with Busy? Why he's like, he doesn't, because Flesh doesn't seem like, when I see him in concert.
I love Busy, but he's just fucking crazy.
He is crazy.
I mean, they all are.
Yeah.
I am.
Busy, yeah.
You know what I mean? But I just, Crazy knows crazy. You know what I mean? So we all just.
So Bone has made me so much money because I throw concerts on the side. And Bone was that you do it in a college town, it's a guaranteed sellout.
Mm-hmm.
But I had Busy was, I don't know if this was for life, but he didn't fly. So he was living in
now.
Yeah, he was in Seattle at the time. And I just did Busy and Lazy. So I'm like, you know what? We don't need anybody else. And I'll never forget, we had Juvenile, Ludacris, and, Bone was one of the openers basically for them. And everybody's like, yo, Busy won't get out of the car. And they were fucking with me about the curfew violation. They had there's 7 minutes left before midnight. And I'm like, what do you mean he won't get out the car? And he's like, he won't get out. And I go out there. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I'm just not feeling it. And I said, well, you better fucking get your ass in there and feel it right now, because they're about to close this whole thing. And I'll never forget, like, he jumps out the car, runs in there, does the best show I've ever seen, dropped the fucking mic. And then my son's mother was back at the hotel, and she's like, he's wheeling his shit, loading it in the car, and he's like, tell True I said bye. And that was the last time I seen Busy, like, period.
They are I can see that. They're eccentric, but every artist is. I mean, I remember during my rock days, I met a lot of rock people, and there's a funny story about Axl Rose. We were at Can-Am Studios one night, and this is during Chinese Democracy, when they were doing this album. They spent millions of dollars on this thing. We're at Can-Am Studios, and I'm standing in there, and it's an iconic studio. Tupac did All Eyes on Me there. It's the old Death Row studio, all of this. And I'm in there working with, like, James Ingram or something, doing some old school shit. And they're like, oh, shit, Axl Rose is coming tonight. And it's like, he's had the studio rented for 2 years. but he's never been here. He's coming in tonight to start recording. And the whole studio starts buzzing. Like, you got roadies showing up, you got people tuning guitars in the back, you got the amps turning on. And I mean, this place was fucking going nuts. I mean, the level of Axl Rose showing up somewhere. I mean, there's assistants, there's label people, there's I mean, just any kind of bells and whistles and like cookies and like, I mean, just the writer shows up. I mean, everything. So we go outside because we want to see Axl Rose come in. I want to see what this it looks like in person. We see this green Lamborghini start pulling into the parking lot. We're like, oh shit, that's Axl. And the roadie's like, yep, that's Axl. He starts pulling forward and he gets to the speed bump and he starts trying to get his Lambo over the speed bump. And he can't get his Lambo over the speed bump.
Shit.
And he's trying to go diagonal. He's trying to go straight. He's trying to go sideways. And then the door opens up and Axl gets out. Saw Axl. And he's like looking at the speed bump and he's looking at the car and he's like, well, what the fuck? And he's like yelling at it. He's like kicks the tire. He's like yelling at the car and he shuts the fucking thing, backs up and takes off. And everybody in the studio is like, what the fuck? And then one of the roadies comes in and tells the studio manager, Axl can't work here. And he goes, why? And he goes, he can't get his Lambo over the fucking speed bump. And he goes, so you've rented out this studio for 2 years, spent like $2 million.
Didn't even know.
And he finally shows up and now will not ever work here? Didn't do one fucking vocal in that studio.
That's insane.
Over a speed bump.
Because he couldn't get his Lambo over the speed bump. So yeah, I believe Busy waited in the car.
Oh yeah, he sure did. That's crazy because I love if you look on YouTube the Axl's rants when he'd get the interpreter out there and he'd just start swearing at the audience.
Well,
And
but
the
you
interpreter's
have
like,
to look at like
He was crazy.
the storyline of that, like of some of the stuff he went through, and knowing the David Geffen school of auditioning and, you know, all of that kind of stuff that went on. I mean, you know, you see all of the Harvey Weinstein stuff, you see the, you know, what's going on in the media right now with the stuff going on. It's like, and you wonder why these artists are crazy. You know, the casting couch and the some of the things they made.
You can only
do.
imagine what
I used
they
to
went
always
through.
say working with girls like, oh, it's so has to be so difficult for you, but I'm like, now it's not girls. They're messing with the boys now too.
Everyone.
It's a scary business for everybody now.
I saw that you said you were working with in the rock space, that you worked with Korn.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
That's pretty cool.
Corn was nutty. You know,
What did you do with them?
Well, not that.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Sorry, guys.
You freak. No. But what happened was, when I was doing a lot of remixes at the time, and they had done Word Up by Cameo.
Mm.
And what was funny is I had Cameo doing backgrounds on Loverboy for Mariah. And I was playing it for one of the guys, for their manager at the time, Michael Papali, and he's like, you know what? Korn has a remix where they sampled, you know, Candy. Would you do the remix for Korn? And I'm like, for Korn? Like, you know, so they brought me all of the vocals and all of the Pro Tool sessions, and I remixed it, and it did pretty well. So.
Wow.
Cool.
That was my extent of corning, but
It was like a one-time thing,
no, it was just a one-time thing.
Oh,
But
fair.
you know, a lot of the old rock guys I spent a lot of time with, like, you know, P.F. Sloan, who wrote Secret Agent Man, and you know, a lot of those things. I did some stuff with him. Terry Reid, who just recently passed away, God bless him. Seed of Memory and all of those kind of things. Eric Burden from the Animals of War, and you know, just in my journey, in my travels through this business, I've been through just about every camp and every format kind of there is. And it's more as I've always been kind of an explorer. So like the old rock guys were a lot of fun to hang out with. But I'll tell you a funny story. When I first started hanging out with some of the old rock guys, like, you know, Neil Young's bass player, Rick Rosas, who has since passed away, God bless him, rest in peace, Rick. Him and Waddy Wachtel, who played for Stevie Nicks, and the guitar player, and all these kind of guys. You know, when I first started coming around, they're like, oh, you're the rap guy. You do that jungle music, you know, all of this kind of shit, right? I heard it all. And finally, one night, and this is where I earned my respect with them, is I stood up and I said, y'all sound like your parents with Elvis. And they all stopped and were like, this motherfucker. They're like, okay, you get one record. Bring us one record, one rap record that will change our minds. I gave them Dear Mama.
Oh, wow.
And they all from that point forward had a new respect for rap music.
Wow.
They got it.
Yeah. Well, before we
Crossing
get out of
cultures.
here,
Yeah, can I get the fuck out of here?
Yeah, no,
He has to use the bathroom.
I gotta take a piss.
Yeah, right. It's about time.
yeah. If you gotta take a piss, do it now. But we're gonna leave on a special note. But you need a bathroom
No,
break?
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well,
was
before we get
talking
out of
shit.
here, we have to. Well, first of all, who's your favorite hip hop of all time? If you had to pick one,
God, that's a tough one.
because you had to still be a fan of somebody.
I would say Tupac or Eminem, Biggie, those three.
So your interactions with Tupac and Biggie, if you had to pick one, who would it be?
Biggie was a lot less testing than Tupac was.
Yeah.
My interaction with Tupac wasn't the greatest at first.
Yeah, I can see that.
He was with Shug, and they thought I bootlegged his album.
Oh,
So it was
yeah.
a little tenuous at first.
Right.
And then
Like
dating-
a month before he got shot. So,
Sheesh.
yeah.
and then dating Mariah Carey. Like what?
Wouldn't do that again.
Yeah, so
All the Christmas music.
yeah, that's why I said I'm like, man, every time
Maybe that's what drove her. Sorry, go ahead.
But
Me, not the
She has a
Christmas
holiday bar here in Vegas now. It's out on the record.
really?
Yeah.
She's
Oh.
drunk most of the time.
Yeah, that's
so-
what I've
That doesn't surprise me.
Should we go? Let's go.
I've always heard just stories of just a major wine drinker, or is it any alcohol or
I'm not
wine?
I can't
Yeah.
get into that.
But how was it? Like I know
I
that
won't get into that.
I know the drill just working with some girls and stuff, and it's like when you're working with somebody and you're around them 24/7.
Sooner or later
It just happens.
Look, it's not because I'm cute. Trust me.
So-
You know what I mean? I mean, when you're with somebody 24 hours a day, 7
Yeah.
days a week,
I
and
know it.
you're basically their go-to person for everything, then you start watching movies together, then you start falling asleep in the same bed, and then the next thing you know, you're
I tell people that I had one girl
doing something.
I worked with, and I still kick myself, but I was with her every day. Got her signed to Interscope, but I was with her every single day.
You
for like
become comfortable, and you
2
know,
years to where we had to date because we had no life outside of being
Yeah.
in the studio the entire time.
have you ever heard of Stockholm Syndrome?
No,
Yeah.
I've
Yes.
heard the term, but what is that?
When somebody kidnaps somebody, like, there's Stockholm Syndrome came from the Patty Hearst case, where Patty Hearst got kidnapped by somebody and she fell in love with the kidnapper because basically she
Jesus.
never had any interaction with any real people, basically.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you tend to fall in love with
something.
something that, I mean, is different, and you're with that person 24 hours a day, and then after a while you're like, oh yeah, shit, fuck me. Like, not like that. I meant
Not literally, but actually.
and literally.
Did you was that towards the ending of her career? Was there ever a time where you were
It was
like,
the end of mine.
well, that's what I said. Was there a time where you're like, fuck? Because I still to this day,
I
this
left.
girl, I
I
was
just- I
like, damn, I
couldn't
wish
do
I
it.
would have never did that. Because
Yeah, it got to the point where I was just like, I'm good. I got to get out of here. And I introduced her to Benny Medina and just slipped out the back door. Like I put together the beginning of We Belong Together and all of that kind of shit.
Right.
So she was back and had something else to
Right.
To work,
Keep her
look forward to.
occupied.
Yeah.
like so I fixed what I could fix, put it together, and literally slipped out the back door. Like she would, but she couldn't. See, the thing about Mariah is she's so career driven. So if something is going really well, she will not fuck with that. Do you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because the momentum of that, if she steps away from it or distracted from it, she's got to do these performances. She's got to do these promo hits. She's got to do these label things. And there's a calendar that sets certain benchmarks basically to keep her on track. Well, if I did not just go along, then, if she ejected and came to find me, then she would fuck off her career again. And after spending all of that time rebuilding and then having her finally gaining momentum again and finally having a single and all of this kind of stuff, I knew that she would be off on this path. If I found her a manager, then she wouldn't have to depend on me. So I found her Benny Medina and then just said, and then changed my number.
Good luck. So I have one last question, Troy.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have one last question. If there's something you could share with the audience, what is the biggest misconception about the industry?
That it's real.
Wow.
The industry doesn't exist. It's done. The industry, as you know, it is done.
Have you ever been to a Diddy party?
No. But he did. But I will tell you this. But there was one year when I was in New York for my birthday, and he threw a party at his restaurant for me. And it was me, Fat Joe, Warren G, Lil Kim, a bunch of other people. It was a dinner. It wasn't a party, but it was a dinner. And that's the night. If you look on smokinggun.com, Ja Rule's mugshot was from October 10th, whatever year that was. And that was the only Diddy party I've ever been to. You know, it's kind of crazy. Like, I'm very, like, I come in and I leave. I do my job and I go home. You know what I mean? I'm not, like, for instance, Payola, you know, intimidating me or trying to get me to play something that didn't fit my radio station or parties or anything like that. They just knew not to
bring that your way.
I'm just not the guy. You know what I mean? So I never got invited to the parties. I never wasn't the guy they got up and said thank you to on the Grammys. I'm not, that's just no big thank yous in the album.
You didn't play the politics.
Yeah, I come in, I do my job, tell everybody where to stand. Everybody does it. And we move on. You know what I mean? I'm not that guy. We weren't great friends. You know what I mean? All of them, you know what I mean? Because once I disappeared, phone didn't ring. You know what I mean? Like, so
it's just how it is.
It just is what it is. So I'm never, look, I treat the business like a 9 to 5. You know what I mean? I go to my job, I do my work, and I go home. I don't want a piece of any of this weird side shit.
Who does that
But
sound
that's
like,
also,
Royce?
but that's also why my
Me.
perception of it is still what we were talking about, is I'm still me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm still that 15-year-old kid that's doing 7 to midnight. I still look at the same tools. I still use the same tools. I still do everything the exact same. That's why I'm still able to reinvent myself every time I want to.
You didn't switch up.
In any environment, because I go by a certain core value set of rules that's based in the fact that I could look at my grandma in her face till the day that she died. You know what I mean? I will never sell my soul. I will never do anything outside knowingly. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, my eyes might be bloodshot. You know what I mean? But
But you did it your way.
But I did it my way, and I did it in a way where I could look my grandma in the face till she died.
That's real.
That's powerful.
All right. Well,
But now that she's gone, fuck it. No, I'm just
Sign me up, Illuminati.
kidding. You know what I mean?
would Mariah give you tickets to her concert here if she came?
I let's just say this. I am probably one of the thorns in her side that she does not want to. You know, recently I was talking about introducing her to Eminem. You know, it was kind of a fucked up thing. But what happened was M wanted her to be in 8 Mile.
Yeah.
But he wanted her to play his mom.
Oh, I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that hit international press. It was on Entertainment Tonight. It was on People. It was Rolling Stone. Blah, 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 blah. Well, one of these late night talk shows the other night or a couple weeks ago had her on, and then like some music producer said that Eminem wanted you to play a mom. Now, normally Mariah would be like, fuck that, no way, fuck him, da 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 da. But she can't say anything when it's me. You know what I mean? So I think the last thing that because look, with a lot of these artists, I don't afford them the leeway of lying, of narrative. You know what I mean? If I'm in the room, I've always based myself in truth. You know what I mean? That's why the Instagram thing, that's why it's funny, the Instagram thing, because the way it started out was, oh, this guy's full of shit. There's absolutely no way. He's just taking credit for everything.
That's what something I was telling her, like when I go back to my career back 20 years ago, I said, it's reminded of yourself. You're telling stories and this new generation they don't believe you.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, I did that 20 years ago, but it's hard for them to fathom, like, oh, you really were in a
that happened.
Britney Spears? Yes.
That happened until I told the Dre and Snoop story.
Yeah.
Because when I told the Dre and Snoop story, everybody said bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And then I posted Snoop saying it. In the Hawaii show on my Instagram, there's a thing like where he's like, look, we would have thought of getting back together if it wasn't for you. You know what I mean? And then they were like, wait a minute, maybe this guy's telling the truth. And then everybody started doing the research. But I have to thank Big Boy, really, because Big Boy is the one that gets the calls. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, every time I say something on my Instagram, more than one person sends it to Big Boy and goes, is this
real?
Is this real? Especially when I first came back.
They got too much time.
Because they're like, who is this white boy? He's full of shit, right? And Big said the funniest one was, I think there was a comedian that hit him up and was like, yo, this guy has just got to be full of shit. And he goes, no, not only is it true, but think about what he's not going to tell you. Think about all the...
Facts.
I heard you say on one of your Instagrams, somebody called you an industry plant. Like,
no, they called me a culture vulture.
Oh yeah, culture vulture.
And I've fucking lost it.
I had somebody.
The one thing that I'd never been called in my career was a culture vulture. And if you stop and think about my contributions, this is the only thing I get worked up about, by the way. If you think about my contributions to this industry, think if I just didn't put Dre and Snoop back together, the ripple that would have caused. No 50 Cent, no Eminem, no.
That's the industry.
So true.
I mean, okay, Jay-Z, Ja Rule, Irv Gotti.
That's the industry.
It never would have happened this way.
Then
Jennifer
there's no
Lopez.
DMX. There's no
Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah,
I mean, Ja Rule. She would have tanked after those records. Do you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like, I mean, just think about the impact of all of those artists and how boring your life would be. Like, no, but that's what happens when you have a fan running the music business. Is I'm the Forrest Gump of hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, if it's for the right reason, but that's also what we got to get back to is it was done from such a pure place.
Yeah.
Look at what happened when you just left the fans alone to make the decision. It's a perfect example. That era is still the strongest era of music ever.
No, that is true.
And it's just because one kid said, fuck y'all, and got an all access pass. I'm what you get when you give a fan an all access pass and a little bit of power.
Wow. What an amazing story.
Well, we're
crazy, right?
Literally. Dude, you're a living
We need
legend.
to do a part two,
nuts
man.
is what it is.
We got to do a part two.
Are you doing any more like crazy shit going on?
I'll be stripping in my room later. I'm going to turn up the radio.
Chippendales.
to Christmas music?
Well, okay.
I'm going to turn
Mariah
on
Carey.
I'm going to turn on All I Want for Christmas
It's time.
at the Virgin Hotel. And I am a virgin, so we'll leave it at that.
You coming in town for the AVN?
Wait a minute. See, now that's something that I have never done. And I have been threatening to do
Let's
that
go.
every year.
I've
always
Let's do a party.
Rumor on the
True got
street,
us passes.
we're gonna throw a party for the.
I have, the adult entertainment industry is fascinating to me.
Sure.
But I could get Caligula real fast. But anyways, I'd love to see it.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you at?
Forget it. I was like, is this live? At /Damizza, Damizza on Twitter, which I never use. Instagram, which is where I basically live. And yeah, that's about it.
No Facebook?
Well, I did, but I lost how to get into it.
And you got a LinkedIn, I see.
Yeah, but I don't. None of these things I use.
I know.
Like everybody gets on me about the YouTube thing too.
Yeah, Matt's a big.
Oh, I'm on UJizz though.
UJizz.
No.
I had to think about
I
that.
can't. I was like, hold
We're talking
on.
about the porn.
Hold
I've
on.
never heard of that site.
I have court at 9 a.m. with a porn star tomorrow morning.
Jeez, dude.
How about you, Little Rach? Where do they find you at?
You can find me on the interwebs at Low Rach, LALRAYCH.
And then Mr. Will.
At
Sometimes
Mr.
he-
Will Roundtree, that is MRWILL ROUNDTREE across all social platforms.
All right. You can just find me at Green Room Radio on everything.
Thank you all for having
Thank
me.
you,
I appreciate
No,
Damizza,
it.
this was
man.
great, man.
I
Went a
appreciate
little
you coming
south
through.
at the end, but
It's okay.
No, it's always good. Like I said, we usually hard stop the hour, but it was hard to stop. A lot of info,
right.
so we're gonna
pause. No Diddy.
no Diddy. Yeah, so
Yeah, we need a part 2.
yep, part
Whenever.
2,
We'll run it
AVN,
back.
AVN
Whenever.
style.
Let's go.
All right,
Oh,
thank you.
God.
Peace out,
It's
everyone.
gonna
See
be all
ya.
bad.
Green Room Radio.